Adam, you actually got to be a part of something that was another flashpoint in Soviet history, which was Chernobyl. And so I'm curious what about that prepared you to play Valya, who is this sturdy, dependable cosmonaut who does have other things that are tying him to Earth and maybe making him want to run from it.
Nothing. Not to dismiss that, but nothing actually. Nothing. There was nothing similar at all, except that it was they were both in the Soviet Union. But also, there was a good 15 years apart as well. I think at least maybe 12. But it honestly didn't even occur to me that I'd done Chernobyl when this came around. It was really nothing to do with that. It was um yeah, but it's the I didn't really know much about this setting, the period when I knew about the period, but I didn't know that when I went for the audition with Nick Murphy and uh anyway, Nick Murphy and Robert Stern, I didn't know that this was immediately. I didn't know this was set in the Soviet Union. I had an inkling, I think, but I don't really remember. It was more of the story of the people. But the predicament, I suppose, is sort of similar. But of course, Valya is, I suppose, a celebrity, or at least he's a state asset that can't be sacrificed, unlike, other characters I've played. So Valya is an important, valuable. I suppose he's a human tool. Is the way I would describe him. They can throw him up in space, but it's probably useful if he comes back down again. So I think the difference is that they're listening to him, they're spying on him. It's much more oppressive. Um, anyway, yes, but I'm not sure anything. I'm not sure anything from Chernobyl really prepared me. I suppose oppressive regimes are oppressive, but by the time Chernobyl happened, it was slightly different. The Soviet Union. There's a very good documentary, an Adam Curtis one called Hypernormalization. It talks a lot about how nobody really believed any of this stuff anymore by that period. Everybody knew it was all bullshit, and the state said something and you nodded and you agreed to lie to each other. This didn't feel like that at all. This still felt there's a dedication to the state, and there's still a job to do, and there's still a war, there's still a battle. This is before sort of agriculture failed the Soviet Union, and this is a completely different world. I know now coming into this that the Soviets won in this world, in a sense. The Soviets, they're not destined for failure. So it's a slightly different outlook. Sorry to go on there, Hunter, but yeah, no one's ever asked
No,
me
I
that
mean,
before.
if nothing else, you had some practice saying Russian names, which again was better than I had going into this. So, but it's
Hunter, one thing I will give Adam props for, because as we were trying to
One
figure out how to
thing,
get this up on its feet and make it feel as real as possible, we were trying to figure out, like, what is it about the way people behave that feels innately Russian? And he brought up this quote, which I'm going to get wrong, but Adam, you can correct me, but it's something like, only fools laugh when there's no reason, or smile when there's no reason. And it's a Russian proverb. And it really, like, brought to life this kind of the seriousness of the Russian people and kind of how they carry themselves. And it also helped me understand that the people who worked at the hotel I was staying at were not mad at me all the time. That was just their natural, and I'm the American going like, "Hey, how you doing, everybody?"
Adam and Sully. Did you get a chance to jump out of a plane just to get a sense of some of the stakes that face some of these cosmonauts?
we both went fairly fast in. We did some sort of uh no,
What are you
I
gonna
was going
say?
to.
What are you gonna say? You know what?
Took off without I took off Guys, I took off without a landing there. I got nothing. I was going for a joke.
I was so
You should know
curious
you
where
can't
you're.
take off without your landing.
Yeah, Adam, come
Valya,
on. Where were you? Come, you
Jesus,
got to
man.
finish the thought. Where were you
Yeah.
going so fast?
I was.
No, I actually have. I
Apologies,
jumped out
look
of plane a couple of years before we shot
Okay.
this without realizing the shows. I think, Jesus Christ, I would do it again. I think, but it is pretty terrifying. So
Well,
Yeah, I would not.
I do
I
know.
would
I know why
not.
Anastasia was so terrified of jumping out of that plane.
for those who are acting here, you do have to rely not just on a script, but on the incredible costume design, production design, set design, all these things that have to come together for this show. So I just was hoping that some of you could talk a little bit about how that kind of helped get into the mindset of your character, or at least kind of help you feel a momentary connection to this world that needs to be vivid and needs to be a bit more detailed than what we might think of is just this kind of collective knowledge of the dark, grayscaled 70s and 60s in the Soviet Union. Anybody have costume stories or anything?
I got.
I
Oh,
have to just
you go.
no. I was just going to say we must just shout out Stephanie Gradig and Nicole Fishnella because they're the costume designers and hair and makeup, and they worked so brilliantly together to make everything feel entirely real. And we kind of from the beginning went with a bit of an aesthetic of kind of ugly beautiful, which just allowed us to sink into like just the reality of it, and equally with the set design, like our flat, Adam.
Yeah.
If you compare it with other flats in the show,
I spent a bit of time in your flat, actually.
you spent a bit of time in my flat. Just the attention to detail and just know that they,
Believe me.
you could feel that Tanya had spent her time decorating this flat. Adam, do you agree? It just felt so like this was a space that they had created together, and it just made it so easy to be entirely immersed. And
these are all all these Soviet blocks where you assume you all have exactly the same square footage as it were, and so you walk in and the color of your wall or the color of your wallpaper or the design of your wallpaper is your small rebellion or whatever we were saying before. It's totally true. It's completely true. And I also remember there's two things. One of them is the little trinkets, the little nuanced things like your watch and your keys and your wallets. And we had so many great props master, so you could have all these little details. And I think specifically for me, and probably for, I don't know about you, Solly, but probably because we were in the same spaceships, that you can't really fake that. So you really are in there in these tiny these inhumane environments. The idea that you were just sort of catapulted up there into space, and then you hope you breach orbit, and then you go in the right direction. I mean, it's kind of psychopathic in a way when I think back on it now, and I think about that. It's kind of, there's a lack of fear is concerning to me now. So now I realize I was playing a psychopath, but I didn't realize it then.
We have Sasha, we have Valya, we have Tanya, who are intertwined in this very intricate, intimate way, while also dealing with their own things. And so I think moving forward, what was it like for the three of you to work together and kind of, navigate what are some treacherous waters for three people who very much care about each other, but in very different ways?
I just made sure that I wasn't on board. I can't do that again with these people.
I think it was a nice relationship to play because with a kind of little, with a trio where you could go down quite a cliched route of like, the husband and the wife, and it's like a stale, resentful relationship, and she's fucking the best friend. We all worked hard, and it was there in the script as well, but also with Nick Murphy, our director, we worked quite hard to make it more nuanced than that. And for, because at the end of the day, it felt more about survival. For at least for Tanya, it was a survival thing, and like something that she knew she had to do, even though, it might down the line completely destroy the marriage. I think again, it was something she had to do to keep her marriage kind of going. And Same with yeah, there's still so much love between her and Valya. And I
think it was that they all have their individual reasons for doing.
Yeah.
There's no like no one just suddenly does something because this could be cool in the story. It's like there's all a reason for it. You know, it's not like, oh, let's throw in some tea, like let's make them just like be shagging each other because why not? No, there's a reason. There's an emotional reason and a reason behind everything and all of the kind of the actions that these characters have and do throughout the show. It just makes it so much nicer to play. You're not questioning yourself, you know, like why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? It does make sense.
The shame we're so censored at the moment, or we could tell you the actual reason why that question is actually really interesting because the way they end up.
Just have to watch it and find out.
It's actually kind of the whole reason why I did this whole thing, you know, because that is, as you said, Solly and Ruby, it's so well written and it is not cliche.